You're downtown, the streets of Lima, Ohio. Hi again, everyone. I'm Scott Douglas along with Army Armstrong as Tuff Trax takes you to Lima and the Allen County Fairgrounds on the TNT Monster Truck Challenge. The silver flag, that's what they battle for every week here on Tuff Trax. Gary Porter and Carolina Crusher last week in Louisville, Kentucky, took that silver flag away from Dennis Anderson and Gravedigger. He'll try and hold it today against the likes of David Morris out of Springfield, Tennessee in the Equalizer and other top trucks on the TNT Monster Truck Challenge. Setting up today's great run, Army Armstrong has got both Gary Porter of Carolina Crusher and David Morris.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Lima, Ohio, the next stop on the TNT Motorsports Monster Truck Challenge Series. Standing with me right now, the driver of the Equalizer Monster Truck and Gary Porter, who'll be driving the Carolina Crusher. Now, Porter will be carrying the championship flag in tonight's competition. Gary, what are you going to do to keep the flag?
Well, this took me all season to get the flag. This was my first win last week, and now that I've got it, I'm going to be working twice as hard to keep it.
Anytime you see the flag, you're looking at last week's winner. But right now, we're going to be talking to the Equalizer, the current national points leader, Dave Morris, national points leader, but you haven't had a chance to carry the flag yet. How are you going to get the flag?
Well, there's a lot of competitive trucks running right now. It's going to be a long season, and I'm just going to try to run as hard as I can, try to get on top, stay there.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that sets up the Monster Truck Challenge you're going to be watching from Lima, Ohio. We're also going to be bringing to you today the best of professional truck and tractor pulling.
That's right, Army. It's super modified two-wheel drive truck pulling from the new Charlotte Coliseum in Charlotte, North Carolina. The first hook to the sled will be the test puller, one of the best, defending national champ in this class, Mike Stowe and his Bad Dog Ford out of Warrenton, Georgia.
Well, Scott, as you know, as we go around the country, this has to be one of the most popular classes there is. The reason being the Chevrolet people can pull for their product, the Ford people can pull for theirs. It's wheels up action as all the horsepower goes to the track through the rear wheels only. Weight is so very important in this class. Who's going to figure it out? We're going to find out later.
But when we return, you are going to see the best monster trucks in the world doing battle over an incredibly tough course in Lima, Ohio. It's thrilling action, and we'll find out how high Carolina Crusher can fly. It's all coming up from Lima when TNT Motorsports returns with the monster trucks on Tuff Trax. Welcome to Tuff Trax. I'm Scott Douglas, and today it's the Major League of Monster Truck Racing, the TNT Monster Truck Challenge. And that means the world's best monster truck drivers are assembled in Lima, Ohio, getting ready for the qualifying round. David Morris right there out of Springfield, Tennessee, getting a big reception from the folks, of course, in Lima, Ohio, as he gets ready to qualify. But we're going to be looking at some of the top runs in qualification round, Army, and we're going to see a few of them. First up, it'll be John Kwasniewski, who you call Johnny K. He's out of Lackawanna, New York, in the Buffalo Trimmer.
I'll tell you what, Johnny K, he's not new to the sport, but the truck is new. It's got an all-aluminum frame on it, a lot of horsepower, trying to get the new truck blues worked out of it. He's definitely going to be a charger before the year's over, but right now, Scott, as you well know, getting the bugs ironed out of a racing vehicle can take a little bit of time. Johnny not getting the run he won, but I'll guarantee you they did learn something there. They'll be back for elimination.
The Buffalo Trimmer getting over that last set of cars. Again, it's 3 sets of cars they have to go over here at Lima, Ohio. And the time is 19:13, and that is going to be a little slow on this course. We'll be looking for something much quicker to lay down the fast qualifying time.
Scott, you got to remember that was the first time the truck had ever been driven at all. So everything was new, under 20 seconds. I'm looking for some 13-second shots before the day's over. So Johnny K, he'll be a player before it's over. But speaking of players, right now, everybody's trying to catch this guy.
David Morris out of Springfield, Tennessee. You just got a good look at him in the Equalizer, and now he'll go across these 3 sets of cars trying to lay down the fast time. Equalizer and David Morris, certainly this truck and this guy have been the story early on, and he comes out of the chute in a hurry.
Well, he comes out real quick. Now, the problem with the 3 sets of cars is which set do you get lined up for? Morris has a relatively smooth run going, has to backpedal now, pulls the trigger, makes a good run out of the right side of the track. Now, remember, Scott, we're starting to develop a pattern here as 13 seconds, what, a 13:39. So the power will definitely be able to get to the track if you can keep the vehicle straight. 3 jumps, that's going to be tough to do.
Next up, it'll be Gary Porter and the Carolina Crusher trying to get the fast qualifying time. Crusher with that silver flag as last week's winner. We asked him earlier about how he'll drive this track.
Well, this particular course will have 3 sets of cars. And I'll come off the first set of cars in second gear, and as soon as I get to the second set of cars, I should shift to third gear, and hopefully I'll land good and straight, and I'll just hold it to the floor to the third set of cars.
I'll tell you what, Scott, something he didn't tell us is that he's going to pull the trigger on that last set of cars. He believes he can get quick qualifying time. First set, a little bit out of shape. He's going to have to really go after it. Now watch for Porter to go after Scott. Shoot up. What a run. He jumped completely over the third set of cars, Scott Douglas.
Up, up, and away, and there's the time, 11.85, a sub-12-second run for the Carolina Crusher and Gary Porter. My, what a run as Porter lays down the quick time, 11.85, with that fantastic final leap, and they love it in Lima.
Well, I tell you, the people in Lima, they just got a chance to see one of the best in the sport. He was talking about coming out and pulling the trigger, and look at that, leaps over 10 cars, clears them all, Scott. That's over 80 feet in the air in under 12 seconds. So he is definitely going to be the quick qualifier till now. But look who's coming out right behind him.
The guy who up until last week was the national points leader, Dennis Anderson's Gravedigger out of Chesapeake, Virginia. And you know the Digger wants to come back strong here today in Lima. Here he goes on his run.
Anderson runs a rear engine combination. The truck's going to be a little bit ill handling in qualifying. He knows it, but now back pedals, he's really a lot of problems right now. Anderson just backed out of the throttle and motors over the last set of cars.
Obviously a problem on the run. Looked like he didn't come off that second set, lined up to go to the third set. It cost him some time, Army. The Gravedigger's time is 15.23.
Well, believe me, Anderson's going to be back in the pits trying to get that figured out. The people here are kind of in awe right now because Anderson normally is an attack driver. You notice the first set of cars, he goes over. He looks relatively good right now, but he comes off a little bit crooked. Goes to the left. He tries to correct it. Now, remember, there's 3 sets of cars. He's approaching the second set of cars. He still looks fairly straight, but when it came to the final set of cars, the Gravedigger was not going to be able to lay down the shots that he wanted, Scott.
Next qualifying run will come from that man right there, Starvin' Marvin Smith. Stomper out of Arnold, Missouri. The Chevrolet ready to go.
Boy, this truck, a crowd favorite wherever it goes. The kids love the Stomper Chevrolet. You're going to see why right here. Marvin Smith, definitely an attack driver. Second set, no problem. They have to get out of the throttle and go back in the throttle for a third set of cars. Scott Douglas, this is going to be a driver's track tonight. You mark my words, that third set of cars is causing havoc out there.
And a good run for Stomper, 14.69. So Marvin Smith lays down a good one. Third best behind only Carolina Crusher and Equalizer. Marvin Smith may be among the elite. Okay, here's the way the brackets will work. Carolina Crusher, fast qualifier, will get a bye run. Gravedigger and Clydesdale. That'll be a good race. Stomper will take on playing for keeps in the next part of the bracket. And the fast loser knows he'll be coming back against one of those 2 trucks. Thunder Chicken will come out against Buffalo Tremor and move on to take on another of the fast losers in the quarterfinal. And then we'll wrap up that first round with no problem going up against Walking Tall and Equalizer against the Jersey Outlaw Ford. Boy, we've got a dandy first round set up. When we return, side-by-side monster truck racing. Right there you saw it. It's the one-on-one matchup, side-by-side eliminations from Lima, Ohio, when Tuff Trax continues. Don't you dare go away. But it's anything but peaceful at the Allen County Fairgrounds, where 3 junk car obstacles are really making life tough on the best monster truck drivers in the world. And Army Armstrong, this is really a difficult course for these drivers.
Well, Scott, one thing we've noticed at the completion of this qualifying session, that is the area between the jumps. We call it no man's land. Normally on a straight course like this, it's set up to where the trucks start off going over a hill, and then they go a short straightaway into a jump, and the race is over. This track is so long at Lima, Ohio, they're having to go over 2 jumps or 2 sets of cars. The problem being, when you come off the first set of cars, the truck seems to be out of shape. They're having a lot of problem in no man's land after the second jump. Let's watch all the action and see who's going to figure this out.
That will make this run a greater advantage for your fast qualifier, Carolina Crusher and Gary Porter. He has nothing to lose here. Nobody's going to beat him, but he gets a bye run and another chance to figure this track out.
Yeah, and you notice, Scott, immediately he goes to the opposite side of the track. He qualified quick time out of the left lane, but he comes over to the right side of the track just to get a feel on the 89 Chevrolet, the Carolina Crusher, in case he might decide later to go into the right lane. Now, remember, he will have lane choice the rest of the evening by virtue of that quick qualifier qualifying time, I look for him to stay in the left side of the track.
Boy, he's trying to hold that silver flag and looking good so far, Gary Porter. Let's get on to the eliminating, though. Side by side, Bennett Clark will bring out the Clydesdale from Powder Springs, Georgia, against that man right there, Gravedigger Dennis Anderson. Certainly one of the most popular trucks around right now. Clydesdale hopes to knock him off.
Bennett Clark and the Clydesdale will not be intimidated by the Gravedigger. Clydesdale working the far lane. The Gravedigger going way in the air on the right side of the track, having all kind of handling problems. Clydesdale trying to come back on him. Across the finish line is going to be the Clydesdale. Anderson was really working, trying to stay upright.
Bennett Clark out of Powder Springs, Georgia, gets the big win. Army, is this an upset over Gravedigger?
Bennett Clark, somebody may call it an upset, but you put the Gravedigger away in this first round. What's it like out there tonight?
Well, the ramp's awful steep. We're getting a lot of air. I mean, it's a long course. You know, it's hard to handle a truck when you're running at that speed. It's just, you can't make no mistakes. You just got to stay on it. If it goes out of control, you got to be right back on top of it as quick as you can.
Bennett Clark and Clydesdale got the win. And make no mistake about it, but to make matters worse for Gravedigger, he's also disqualified, Army.
Well, the reason for the disqualification are the rules specifically say that the front tires must hit the obstacle you're going to jump. You notice the right front tire does not hit the last set of cars, and it looked like he had a little bit of valve float, and we noticed flames out of the back of the truck.
So indeed, Gravedigger is out for the evening, being disqualified. Will not be able to come back as a quick loser, although he did have a pretty good run that time. All right, side by side, next matchup, we'll send Jesse Berge in the playing for keeps out of Wyoming, Michigan. There you see the Michigan big guy going up against the Stomper and Starvin Marvin out of Arnold, Missouri.
Chevrolet side by side. Marvin Smith gets an initial jump. Berge starts to pull back on him in the far lane. Berge pulls it over the second jump. They're going into the finals. Who's it going to be? The Mountain Man, Jesse Berge, playing for keeps in Lima, Ohio.
Well, another surprise. So early on, surprises in Lima, Ohio. As we get ready to go on with more first-round side-by-side action, we'll be seeing the Thunder Chicken coming out in a moment as Stomper now has to hope to come back as a fast loser. I mentioned Thunder Chicken. There's Kid Rarig out of Catawissa, Pennsylvania. He'll be rolling out now to take on the Buffalo Trimmer.
Buffalo Trimmer, the brand new truck, we told you about it. You know, a moment ago, something I just noticed. Both of our winners, we kind of could call them upsets, but they both have one thing in common. They came off the left side of the track, Scott, so there could be a lane difference. However, look at the Buffalo Trimmer out of New York. He's muscling his way through, trying to stay straight, going into the last jump. He'll take the first win of the night out of that right lane.
So, John Kwasniewski out of Lackawanna, New York, comes up with the victory off the right-hand side. He knocks off Thunder Chicken and Kid Rarig as we're rolling through the first round of competition from the TNT Monster Truck Challenge here in Lima, Ohio. Next up, it'll be Walking Tall, as we're going to get a look at Tom Bites, also out of Catawissa, Pennsylvania. He'll go up against the Ford man's favorite, No Problem, the No Problem Ford Bronco, and John Moore out of Lafayette, Tennessee.
A while ago, you were talking about all the people and how they get behind all their favorite trucks. Well, the Ford fans around the country, when they see John Moore roll in the door with No Problem, they know they've got a big bullet to carry their name, and Moore showing why. He's smooth. He's just a smart driver. Doesn't break a lot of equipment, but Moore's going into the next round with the No Problem Bronco.
John Moore and the No Problem Ford Bronco out of Lafayette, Tennessee, has been among the leaders in the points all season long, and so far doing nothing to hurt himself here in Lima, Ohio. Well, speaking of Fords, next up we're going to get a look at Mike Wine and the Jersey Outlaw Ford. Earlier today, Army was able to talk to Mike about some problems the Jersey Outlaw has been having.
Mike, it looks like you and the crew got a whole lot of problems this afternoon. What's going on right now?
Yes, we do. We got a new motor and got it together about 11 o'clock last night. And as we got it together, we figured out that the head gaskets wasn't seating right and blew water into the jackets, into the pistons. We had to tear it back down and trying to get it back together for the race if we can.
I got to tell you, one of his biggest problems, though, right now, Army, is the opponent. He goes up against maybe the hottest guy in the business today, the equalizer, David Morris, the youngster out of Springfield, Tennessee, as you get a look at Mike Wine, the Jersey Outlaw from Browns Mills, New Jersey.
Yeah, Mike Wine's luck may have gone from bad to worse with this draw. He knows he's got to take a shot at the guy. It can be done out of the left lane. The engine's brand new, like he said, and the equalizer truck working the right lane. This kid is a comer. Look at that. Look how smooth he is. The truck seems to have its own characteristics. This young man's a great driver. he's going to advance to the next round.
He is so strong at keeping that truck out of the air, kind of taking low jumps and able to cut through the air. That helps, of course, his time every time out as he gets to win over that man right there, the Jersey Outlaw Ford. Big troubles for Mike Wine, and they'll continue to work on that. Army is caught up with the winner, David Morris.
When we started the show, we were talking to David Morris with the equalizer. Well, he's doing his job tonight. He's won the first round. The chances of you meeting Crusher, and that's what all the crowd's waiting to find out, due to the qualifying session and the way the rounds are set up, if you're going to meet him, it's going to be in the final. Do you still think you can hang on and beat him and take that flag away from him?
I hope I can, Army. This track, it's pretty rough. It gets you a lot out of control if you don't watch what you're doing, so maybe I can just keep my control and win.
Where do you get out of control? Is it going onto the cars, coming off of them, or what?
It's coming off the cars. When you come off the cars, if you gas it too hard before that, it'll tend to end-to-end hopping action. So if I can keep it from doing that, maybe I can do pretty good.
That'll do it for the first round. It is now set for the quarterfinals, and we'll see the quarterfinal round of the Monsters a little bit later. But when we return, it's super modified two-wheel drive truck pulling from Charlotte Coliseum in Charlotte, North Carolina, right here on Tuff Trax. Well, you could really call this a sports palace. The beautiful new Charlotte Coliseum, the home of the NBA's Charlotte Hornets. But today, it's action with the TNT All-American Pulling Series here in Charlotte on Tuff Trax. I'm Scott Douglas, back with Army Armstrong, as we'll go inside the new Charlotte Coliseum and watch the test pull of the defending national champion, the Bad Dog Ford, Mike Stowe out of Warrenton, Georgia.
Well, they call it the test pull, Scott, but really he has drawn a number, that number being number 1, and that particular puller serves as a test puller. It's kind of unique in the world of motorsports to actually test a piece of equipment out. Now, the piece of equipment we're talking about is the weight transfer sled. What you have to remember in this sport is the further down the track you go, the heavier the sled gets. You notice the weight box, the Renegade on the side, that weight box will progressively go forward, increasing the amount of weight that he's pulling. And once it gets over center, it bottoms out, and that's what pulls them down. Weight transfer, that's what the sport is all about.
Stowe will accept that pull of 176.90, badly needing a win as he chases Wayne Roush in the national point standings.
Now, Mike, you drew a spot that a lot of guys don't want, that being the number 1 spot, and you took the pull you had. Now, this track has a history for getting better later in the class. Why did you take that first pull?
Well, I don't know if it's going to get better. I don't know, it might have been a mistake, but I had a good hook. I felt like that was as good as I could do at the time, and rather than putting another run on the motor, I just took it.
Interesting. He just felt that this is as good as he's going to get it today. He's going to accept the hook, and now they'll go after that 176 and change put on the board by Mike Stowe. The first to go after him will be Lloyd Hauser, the Daddy Rat, out of Maiden, North Carolina.
Well, Hauser pulls on the circuit with us. He's in his own home area right now. He ought to be able to figure this clay out. They're spotting the sled, I noticed, to the left side of the track. Let's see if a pattern starts to develop there, Scott. If that's the case, the drivers are telling us that's where the bite is going to be as the program goes on. The track has a history of getting better. Stowe says he doesn't think it's going to happen. Hauser going after him right now in the Chevrolet. He's not going to do it. Mike Stowe will stay on top of this thing.
The Daddy Rat comes up well short, a distance of just 147.60. So Mike Stowe's 176.9 looks pretty good after one guy's gone after him. But here's one of the best that's going to challenge him now. Jim Lyons will bring out Stitches out of Louisville, Kentucky.
Got to be the number 1 GMC in America. Based out of Red Ball Springs, Tennessee, the Stitches Company sponsors a beautiful black two-wheel drive truck, and he is definitely a muscle vehicle in the class. Lyons goes also on the left side of the track, but he's coming across to the right, not able to get the ground speed he wants, and again, Stowe stays on top of that 176.
Boy, that's looking like a great pull right now as Lyons not even close at 160.69. Now we're going to watch the Wild Ram, James Chapman out of Versailles, Kentucky.
Well, here's the setup. The first puller in a Ford staying on top of this thing. He's already dodged one big Chevrolet. Chevrolet couldn't do it. He dodged a GMC. He couldn't do it. The Dodge is coming after him now. The Wild Ram out of the Bluegrass State. Now, he starts off in a different groove. He's starting in the middle of the track, but the weight's not right on the truck, Scott. He lightens up on the nose. That's going to cost him a whole lot of distance, and Stowe stays on top with that 176.
Quite a bit short at 142.63 for James Chapman and the Wild Ram out of Versailles, Kentucky. Next up, one of the best, the Plano Toolbox's Midnight Express out of Crossville, Illinois. Ken Lamont's El Camino will go after his old buddy, Mike Stowe, and the Bad Dog Ford.
You know, they are good friends off the track, but but when they put that helmet on, a war face goes on with it, and Lamont wants the nail, Stowe to the wall. Lamont carrying the Chevrolet colors, working on the left lane, Stowe on top of this. Lamont trying to come after him. The ground speed's not going to be there. The Ford, again, is going to stay on top.
In the ballpark, but not quite enough at 169.54. Ken Lamont just a bit short of Mike Stowe today.
What do you mean a one-eyed Ken Lamont? He lost his glasses in the left eye. Ken, it was a good run. Just wasn't, the track didn't seem to hold the horsepower.
No, track's going away. A lot of times on a so-so track like this is, early number normally does real well. I'll tell you what, Mike Stowe has had absolutely the luckiest winter of any person I ever seen. So I guess we're going to have to beat up on him this summer.
Getting ready to go outdoors. Do you think you can put that big Chevrolet ahead of that Ford on the big money tour this summer?
It's going to be, or there's going to be some real broken parts.
Thanks, Army and Ken, and we're going to be seeing some more great pulling action a little bit later. But when we return, we're going back to Lima, Ohio. It's quarterfinal round action with the TNT Monster Truck Challenge, as we've got some great matchups to decide who's going to win that silver flag today right here on Tuff Trax. Stay with us. Keeps with a surprise, gets the win over Stomper, but look who comes back as the fast loser. We'll get a rematch. That ought to be exciting. Then, Thunder Chicken hooked up with Buffalo Tremor. The Buffalo Tremor came up with the victory and will take on Thunder Chicken again. Thunder Chicken, the second fast loser. As you can see how they're getting back in by being quick losers. Then later, no problem, walking tall, the Ford Bronco, no problem getting the win, and will hook up against Equalizer, who knocked off Jersey Outlaw, and that is one to look forward to. Here's the Carolina Crusher as we move into the quarterfinal round. He's going to be going up against the Clydesdale.
Well, quick qualifier immediately goes where, Scott? To the left lane. He qualified out of that lane and worked real good for him. He's pushing Clydesdale over in the right lane. Now, Clydesdale beat the Gravedigger a moment ago, but he was in the left lane. That left lane's looking, could be the trick this evening. Clydesdale's going to have to work the right side to perfection if it's going to pay off for him. 144-inch wheelbase on the Clydesdale. But look at the Carolina Crusher, comes out smoking. Jump, leap, but the Clydesdale's trying to come back on him. He's bouncing, little nose to tail. The Crusher. Oh, he is just skying that last set of vehicles, Scott.
He really did hit him hard. You know, last week in Louisville, we saw Clydesdale come back on him, and you know, Gary was thinking about that, as Clydesdale looked like he was making up ground in the second spot, but then Clydesdale ends up having problem breaking at the end.
Gary had a real good lead going to the final set of cars. Are you aware of it? You were really out on him.
Yes, I looked over to the right, and I didn't see him, so I let out off a little bit on that last set of cars so I wouldn't get as much air.
Okay, now, a couple of weeks ago in Louisville, Kentucky, you had a real big lead going into the last jump. I know what happened there. Did that go through your mind?
Yes, it did, and I wasn't going to let it happen again in Louisville. When I turned around to look that time, it made me break my neck.
Here's that run that you were talking about in Louisville a week ago. As Carolina Crusher, you can see, looks like he's got Clydesdale covered, and then at the last minute, Bennett Clark just gets on it and blasts by Crusher after Porter had let off, and as he mentioned, he certainly was not going to let that happen to him again. Well, a lot of great things going on, a lot of great action. But let's take just a moment before we get to the next round to kind of talk about transmissions and transfer cases with Jesse Bergia playing for Keith.
In any motorsport, you have to have a transmission to get the power from the engine to the wheels you're trying to propel the vehicle with. Now, who better to explain this literally gray area than one of the monster truck drivers who is a transmission specialist, Jesse Bergia. Jesse, explain to me how you get the power to all four wheels.
Power comes from the engine through a transmission, then in a four-wheel drive vehicle like our monster trucks, we run it into what's called a transfer case. It's a gear reduction unit. It has not one but two drive shafts. One powers the front wheels, one powers the back wheels of the vehicle.
All right, well, Jesse, everybody's familiar with how an automatic transmission works. You put it in D for drive to go forward, you put it in R for reverse to go to the rear, but you fellas are actually shifting these trucks during a competition. Explain why the physical shifting takes place.
Transmissions that are built for our monster trucks use what's called a manual controlled valve body. It's actually the brain of the transmission. What we do is remove the automatic portion of it and make it actually have to be shifted manually. We have to throw the lever to shift from first to second, second to third. In some cases, guys have even got a 4-speed automatic. But the transmission will not shift. If you put it in drive, it'll take off in most cases third gear.
So that's what it takes to make him go and make him shift. Now we'll see how playing for Keith is going to shift in his rematch with Stomper. It looks like Marvin Smith got a good shot out of the hole at that time.
Yeah, the last time they ran, oh, look at this. The last time they ran, the blue truck got a hole shot. Smith wasn't going to let that happen, but something else went away on him, and for the second time, playing for keeps, puts a stomper away, and Marvin Smith came back at the end, but it's just too little, too late, Scott.
He just lost power coming off that first set, and he got too far behind. He came storming on at the end, but Marvin Smith eliminated by Jesse Berge and playing for keeps. It ended up being very close. I think it was once again playing for keeps. Thought he had it won, and then he had a problem on that last set. Look at Smith coming out of nowhere.
Boy, he was flying, trying to make up the ground. I don't know where the problem happened. It happened in the first half of the course, but 2 times tonight, Scott, 2 times, playing for keeps, put Stomper away.
Whoa, they're loving it in Lima as they are seeing some great racing, and now it'll be another rematch, Buffalo Trimmer and Thunder Chicken. Buffalo Trimmer, I think, surprised Kid Rarig in that first round.
Well, Thunder Chicken is going to be working the left side. Look for a different run. Look for a harder run out of the left lane as the Thunder Chicken knows what it's going to take. The Trimmer looking awfully strong over the second set. Now he's in trouble. The Chicken staying straight onto the last jump. Thunder Chicken's going into the next round, but Buffalo Trimmer gave him a battle right to the end, Scott.
Thunder Chicken got the win, but hold it. He's disqualified because he didn't leave the cars properly. So that means a fast loser is going to come back in the semifinals. Thunder Chicken and Kid Rarig with a tough break, finally getting the win, but not coming off those cars. He'll be disqualified, and that means we're going to see one of the quick losers coming back. A tough break for Kid Rarig and Thunder Chicken.
Yeah, a tough break, and that 3-car jump that they're going over is causing all kind of problems. That's why we're getting this disqualifications, but look who's going out now. Chevrolet versus Ford. Equalizer against no problem. Scott, what does it look like from your angle?
Coming down, the Equalizer really cuts through the air. He's got the edge going to the last set of jumps. And it is Equalizer getting the win over the no-problem Ford Bronco. David Morris does it again and gets the win. But I'll tell you, No Problem was able to hang in there. John Moore out of Lafayette, Tennessee, gave it a good run, coming up just a little bit short of the powerful Equalizer and David Morris. Let's talk to John right now.
John Moore and his #1 fan in Lima, Ohio. I tell you what, son, you made him work for it. That was a beautiful run.
Yeah, I decided we weren't going to give anything away to anybody this week.
You guys left the starting line just like a drag race. Everybody was up on our RPMs. You attacked the first set of cars. The run looked awfully straight. That had to be one of the closest side-by-side races we've seen with the 3-car jump. Did the truck feel okay to you?
Felt real good. I might have got a little high on RPM. We might be a little geared, a little low for this, but it felt real good. It hung out real good.
Real quick, I'm going to ask this young lady sitting here with me, who's the best monster truck driver in the world?
My daddy.
That says it all.
We may see that best monster truck driver coming back a little bit later because we'll pick the fast loser to come back into the semifinals because of the disqualification to Thunder Chicken. That'll be later. When we come back, though, we're headed for the Charlotte Coliseum and the rest of the 2-wheel drive super modified pulling as they try to knock off Mike Stowe and the Bad Dog Ford. It's coming up right here on Tuff Trax. The TNT All-American Pulling Series right here on Tuff Trax is coming your way from Charlotte's new Coliseum in Charlotte, North Carolina. And right now they're chasing Mike Stowe and the Bad Dog Ford. Ken Lamont's Midnight Express sits second. Then it's Jim Lyons with Stitches. Fourth is Lloyd Hauser and Daddy Rat. James Chapman and the Wild Ram rounding out the top 5. But we've got 4 more to try and knock Mike Stowe and that Bad Dog Ford off the top spot. I'm Scott Douglas and Army Armstrong. We next look at the unique Ford Thunderbird in this 2-wheel drive super modified truck class, that being John Heilman and the Sultan out of Rockford, Ohio.
Heilman comes out, works the right side of the track. Scott Douglas is the first puller to go to the right side. He's going to shoot them bones off the right side. Nobody knows if it'll work or not. He is speculating the horsepower will be able to go into the track on that side. I don't know if it's going to work. He's going to prove something to us right now. And believe me, everybody left in the class is going to be watching his run as to find out where they're going to set the sled. Starting line looks decent for about 20 feet. Now it goes away on him. The right side is not the place to go. The Ford Thunderbird making horsepower, and he's just not able to get it to stick to the Charlotte clay.
The gamble falls short as only 142.53 distance for the Sultan and John Heilman. He'll finish well back in the field here at the new Charlotte Coliseum. Mike Stowe, the Bad Dog Ford out of Wharton, Georgia, still on top. Maiden, North Carolina's Lloyd Hauser now out, and he'll bring the Super Rat. This is the other truck for Lloyd. We saw him in Daddy Rat earlier.
Daddy Rat taught him something. He started on the extreme left side of the track. This truck, the Super Rat, he's going to start in the middle. Both trucks are almost identical. He knows what it's going to take in order to go into the lead. The The RPM's not up on the engine. Now, that's something that Stowe did. He came out screaming. The rest of these fellows are not. As a matter of fact, there's a breakage problem developing on the Super Rat. The 176 will stay your lead distance.
So Lloyd Hauser and the Super Rat unable to get it done, and you can see the problems there. Only going 112 feet, and, you know, just a tough day for Lloyd Hauser and Super Rat, but again, they'll fix it up and be back. Well, coming out next, we're going to get a look at a guy who really is putting his name lately among the top dogs in this sport. And we're talking about Dan Walsh and the Irish Challenger out of Boston, Wisconsin. Walsh is a guy who could take a run at Mike Stowe right now.
Believe me, Walsh wants to come out here and play hardball. He wants to be the winning Ford. Stowe's on top of this thing with a Ford. Walsh has the Ford. He wants to be able to put Stowe away. Let's see what's going to happen. He works the left side of the track. Now watch for him to get on the throttle real quick. There it is. Puts a horsepower down, Scott. Looking decent down the left side. What does your angle look like?
The Irish Challenger stretches it out. He's close, but I don't think he got there. It is going to be Mike Stowe hanging on by the slimmest of margins, 172.14, just 4 feet short.
Dan, an awfully strong run. You Fords are flexing your muscle in Charlotte, North Carolina tonight.
Yeah, I don't know how I finished out. I had to get on the brake. It was pulled to the left. I had got it about 3 times, which hurt me a few feet.
Seemed like it's making a whole lot of good horsepower for you.
Oh, it's running quite well.
Boy, what a big smile. Dan Walsh knows he's running well, and he got over Lamont. Didn't quite catch Stowe, but he'll pass Ken Lamont and move into second. So a good run for the Irish Challenger. But here is the only challenger left to go after Mike Stowe, the leader in the Bad Dog Ford, and that's the mini brute, Mark Miller, out of Richmond, Virginia.
Yeah, and Mark Miller could be Mike Stowe's worst nightmare right now. The Chevrolet drivers had all evening to watch the track to try to figure it out. Stowe's on top of the 176. Ford's the leader. Chevrolet going after him one-on-one. The mini brute going after the Bad Dog. Good run, starts to sky a little bit on him. Well, when it went up in the air, it cost him some precious distance, and the Ford's going to hang on to win, Scott.
The Chevy got a decent run, but not enough. 160.07, so the mini brute and Miller coming up just a bit short of Mike Stowe. Let's go to Miller with Army.
Luck of the draw, last puller in the class. The track looked good, but just not good enough to hold the horsepower.
No, it get towards last there, you know, sometimes it tend to go away, but Mike Stowe and the guys that, you know, were up front, they're awfully good trucks. They're making a lot of power, and it takes a good truck now to beat them.
We're getting ready to go outside now. These Ford guys kind of jumped on you Chevrolet boys at the end of this winter tour. Are you going to be able to nail them to the wall when you go back outside?
Well, we'll go home and make some changes over the next few weeks, and I expect the lineup will change around a little bit.
One guy who's going to change a little bit is this fella, Mike Stowe, putting together some great sponsorship deals for the summer with Kendall, M30 Hand Cleaner, and with Ford. Today, though, he had all the help he needed because he's able to get the win. Bad Dog, Mike Stowe getting the win. Dan Walsh and the Irish Challenger coming home second at Charlotte. Ken Lamont and the Midnight Express third. Then it's Jim Lyons and Stitches. And then, as we mentioned at the end, Mark Miller and Mini Brute with that last run finishes in the 5th spot. Here's Army with your champion.
You must be living right. That's all I can tell you, son.
Well, it was a pretty good decision to take that pull, wasn't it? But I don't think, like I told you, I thought the track had gotten as good as it was going to get. I had a real good run. There wasn't anything that I felt I could have done any better. I didn't have to use any brakes. Got down here and all the weight transferred on the sled onto my hitch. My front end lifted. I drug it for about 10 feet after the box top, and I was happy with the run. I just said, if somebody's going to beat it, they're going to have to make a good run.
Well, you did what you had to do. You took a win in Charlotte.
Well, we tried to put pressure on him, but Wayne's a hell of a competitor, as you know, and it's hard to put pressure on a professor.
The professor being Wayne Roush, and of course Mike Stowe trying to catch him to win the Winter Points Championship on the TNT All-American Pulling Series. When we come back, we're going back to the great outdoors in Lima, Ohio. It's semifinal round time. There are only 4 left as the TNT Monster Truck Challenge is coming back at you from Lima, Ohio. We're going to cut it to 2 right after this on Tuff Trax. Welcome back to TV's most powerful hour, Tuff Trax, with the TNT Monster Truck Challenge in Lima, Ohio. Well, there are only 4 left. Army Armstrong, it is time to go to the semifinals and see who's going to come out on top here in Lima.
Well, Scott, this is what it is. We're down to the Final 4. The Carolina Crusher is going against Jesse Berge and Playing for Keeps. And remember, Playing for Keeps, down on horsepower, does not run a supercharged engine, but he's put some big guns away tonight. No problem's going to advance. Through a technicality in the rules, he'll be going against the Equalizer. You got to remember, at the top of the show, we talked to 2 trucks, the Carolina Crusher and the Equalizer. They said they wanted each other in the final. We're going to see if that's going to happen.
Again, to explain that bracket, there was a disqualification on Thunder Chicken, so the DQ cannot come back. So the fast loser from the last round, which is no problem, will come back to face Equalizer in a moment. Here's the first semifinal matchup. Gary Porter, Wadesboro, North Carolina, Carolina Crusher against Jesse Berge, and playing for keeps out of Wyoming, Michigan.
Now, Berge's going to have to go real quick. He does not run a supercharged engine. He's given about 500 horsepower to the yellow Chevrolet. If he's going to win it, he's got to win it right on the starting line. They both leave side by side. However, the Carolina Crusher already flexing his muscle. Look at Porter. He is so smooth out of that left lane, goes into the final jump, and that'll put him into the final event, Scott.
Much like a championship belt, the champion fights hard to keep it, and that silver flag is still flying in the back of the Carolina Crusher. Gary Porter has looked great, and he's going to get into the championship matchup to try and hold that silver flag another week. The only question now is, will he go up against No Problem or David Morrison Equalizer? We'll determine that in a moment. But what a run for Carolina Crusher. Gary Porter put down the fast qualifying one earlier, and he's been super tough all night long as this packed house in Lima is loving every minute of it.
And Scott, he is going to have that left lane for the final, no matter who wins this race. Porter, by virtue of that quick qualifying time, and that's why qualifying is so important, he's going to get that lane choice. Look for him to go to the left. The question will be, who's going to be running out of the right lane? We're going to find that out right now. We've got a Ford in the far lane going against a Chevrolet in a lane closer to the spectators. The kid, we're not calling him a rookie anymore. Believe me, he's taking those rookie stripes off already. He's flexed his muscle. He's shown he's a good monster truck driver. Morris will be working the right side for the Chevrolet camp. Moore working the left side. It's your call.
It's been a replay. We had this matchup earlier. Equalizer got an early jump, and then No Problem came back to make a race of it. Again, it's David Morris. Look at him go over the cars. He almost loses control. The wheels are back in. Back up over the cars. David Morrison, Equalizer, Carolina Crusher, and Gary Porter. That'll be our championship match.
It's going to be a war at the final. Two Chevrolets going. Who's going to take the flag out of here? We're going to find out in just a little bit.
David Morris and Gary Porter. Army's got them both.
Well, Scott, when we started the show, it started just like we are right now. This man was on my left with the Carolina Crusher carrying the flag from taking a win last time out. It's the final time. Can you hang on to the flag?
I think so. I really love having that flag on the back of my truck with those Trailmaster shocks and the Big A auto parts. I think I can take the win.
What lane are you going to be coming out of?
I'll be taking the left lane.
And that kind of makes you awfully happy because you've been running out of the right lane all night long, and it works good for you. Dave Morris, Equalizer, you said at the beginning of the show you were going to carry the flag out of here tonight. Can you still do it?
I hope I can. We'll just have to wait and see.
You know, it's kind of amazing. This guy from Tennessee is so easygoing and so quiet, but he's also so very fast. The finals coming your way. Stay tuned. It's going to be a Donnybrook.
You're so right, Army. Both guys get the lane they want. What a matchup. It's what they came to see in Lima, and you're going to get to see it next right there in the best seat in the house here on Tuff Trax. Scott Douglas, Army Armstrong, and you are back in Lima, Ohio, where in just a moment, Carolina Crusher and Gary Porter will battle for the championship on the TNT Monster Truck Challengers event in Lima, Ohio, against David Morris and the Equalizer Chevrolet out of Springfield, Tennessee. But, Army, we always try to bring fans the best in monster truck action from all around the country on the TNT Monster Truck Challenge. So we thought we'd take a look before we get to the final of some great action that we were able to look at recently in Pueblo, Colorado. And then we'll be coming back to see this championship run between Equalizer, who will hook up on that right lane, and Carolina Crusher on the left. Now, in Pueblo, on the first night of action there, Doug Spanier and Master of Disaster of Albany, Minnesota, with a massive upset over Rod Litzow and defending national champion USA 1.
Well, the last time we saw Spanier, we were indoors in Chicago. He said he could not wait to get outdoors and put a bigger motor combination together, and look what happens. Cubic inches and horsepower, he goes to the winner's circle. It was close. And he'll go to the bank on Monday morning with a first-place check.
Boy, just by a little bit, he knocked off USA 1, and then here in the final against Nightlife, he's able to beat the Nebraskan as well. And you talk so well about Doug Spanier, the Master of Disaster. May not be one of the first names that comes to mind yet, but he is flat leaving an impression after the event in Colorado.
Yeah, before 1989's over, everybody's going to know about the Master of Disaster, the fine people in Pueblo, Colorado. They can vouch for him right now.
On the second night in Pueblo, the final came down to USA 1 and Bob Breen in Wild Hair.
Bob Breen played kamikaze pilot on this. He just put it full boogaloo on the floor and out-muscled muscled USA 1, the first time he had ever been able to beat the USA 1 truck, and Bream was ecstatic.
Boy, and they didn't have to go to a photo finish to decide it either. So Bob Brain, wild hair, impressive there. Well, we're about ready for our championship matchup, but first, Army has tracked down a guy who's going to be real interested in this championship matchup. Dennis Anderson and Gravedigger will have a close eye on Equalizer and Carolina Crusher in the final.
We got kind of an interesting spectator here this evening. Dennis Anderson, we understand you've been up in the crowd selling T-shirts tonight. It's final time. Who do you think is going to win this thing?
I don't know. I think this is Gary's night here. I mean, he's working good on this course, and if Carolina Crusher wins, I sell more T-shirts.
Always a businessman. Final time.
Boy, that's how you take defeat and turn it into victory. The Digger said, well, I'll just sell some more T-shirts if Gary gets a win here, but he's got to beat an awfully good truck and Equalizer.
It's going to be an awfully good race. I don't want to use that cliche over and over again, but I have no idea who's going to win it. I know both trucks are exactly where they want to be. Morris wants that flag. The flag indicates the last winner. It's a psychological boost. Porter wants to hang on to it. It's a good lead, the starting line. Right lane's out a little bit. It looks like the kid out of Tennessee coming out a good. Coming off the second ramp, looked awfully good. And Scott, the flag is going to change hands in Lima, Ohio.
Impressive run for David Morris and the Equalizer out of Springfield, Tennessee. What's really impressive, we're going to see a replay in a moment, and watch after he comes off the second set of cars. Morris does get back off of it for a minute, straightens up to make sure both of those front wheels hit the cars so there aren't any disqualifications, and then he takes the win. Look how high he got.
Well, what happens is he runs a unique chassis on the truck, and the four-wheel suspension works a little bit better. It enables him to actually correct the truck quicker than the other fellas, and that's what won it for him. Just some heads-up quick driving.
Great point about the way he's able to keep his speed up while they're able to make the shift and get back in line to go over that last set of cars. Well, here it is on Tuff Trax. Each week, David has to duck, but he will get the spoils. The silver flag signifying his victory here on Tuff Trax. Army, there's an interested observer.
Yeah, David and his lovely wife have just been married about 2 or 3 months. She's standing there all smiles. You know, he's really teamed up with a good combination. Gary Cook and this kid are going to be a power before this year's over.
And when we see him again next week on Tuff Trax, they will be carrying the silver flag, significant of victory here on Tuff Trax with the TNT Monster Truck Challenge. David Morris, the winner, and Army Armstrong talks to our champion from tonight.
Well, David, you did exactly what you said you were going to do. You're really getting good at this, and you seem to really be getting excited now.
That was a wild ride right there. It seemed like it got every which way but loose that time.
The truck, you got to come out of the lane you wanted to. He got to come out of the lane he wanted to. No excuses. You just wanted. Everybody laid their cards on the table, and when it went to the finish line, it was you tonight. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Looking at it one more time, David Morris and Equalizer really pounded the cars, and then that unique chassis setup allows him to make the adjustment to go over that final set and come away with the victory over Gary Porter and Carolina Crusher. Let's go over to Army, who's tracked down Gary Porter for a quick interview.
Gary, a lot of problems right before you went to the final. What was going on back in the pit area?
Well, my power steering belt kept on jumping off. I finally got it to stay so I could get to the line, and then when I got to the second set of cars, it came off again. And so my steering was real hard the rest of the course, and I couldn't run the truck 100%.
You going to get that flag back?
Oh, yeah. You know, I had a small problem tonight, but I'll get it back tomorrow.
How about this kid from Tennessee? He's really flexing his muscle this year on you guys.
He is. He's got a new truck. It's really a new design of truck, and it's really working well for him. But, you know, I'll be back another day to get the flag back.
We're going to find out if Gary Porter's another day to get that flag back is next week here on Tuff Trax, because we'll be right back here in Lima, Ohio for another great round of action on the TNT Monster Truck Challenge. And again, David Morris and the Equalizer will